When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs. Wow, I have a special treat for all of you today. I have been giddy in anticipation, waiting for Miss Liz Brunner to come join us on our show. You are not going to want to miss today. She has an array of a bio that I just cannot wait to dive in and share with you how far she has come in her life and success, and the people that she has had the honor of interviewing throughout her time in communications and being a journalist. So today we have the wonderful pleasure of speaking with Liz Brunner. We're going to talk everything about Dare to Own You. This is all about you. She has a book that's out called Dare to Own You. I'm excited to have her on our show. But before we get to Liz, I want to thank our sponsor for today's show, BizBolster Web Solutions. Imagine if you increase the visits to your website to have a consistent flow of new business. BizBolster Web Solution designs websites and set up tools that not only attract new prospects, but also starts building the know, like, and trust factor for those prospects when they land on your website. Through exceptional websites and targeted SEO, our clients are not only found online, but are also able to convey their area of expertise as well as the what's in it for me to their prospects. Imagine if it was this easy for you to increase sales for your business by driving more traffic to your website. Well, it is. Be sure to visit BizBolster Web Solutions at www.bizbolster.com to download your free SEO guide and schedule your discovery session today. Thank you so much, BizBolster Web Solutions, for being and sponsoring our show today. All right, ladies, here we go. Back to talking all about Dare to Own You. Now, let me tell you, Liz Brunner, she's a best-selling author, executive communications coach, a motivational speaker, sure to motivate us today, a podcast host, and Emmy award-winning journalist. Liz Brunner's television career spanned 28 years and featured many memorable highlights, along with co-anchoring the #1 rated 6 p.m. newscast at ABC TV, WCVB NewsCenter 5 in Boston. She conducted exclusive one-on-one interviews with prominent figures ranging from professional athletes to global politician leaders, including President Barack Obama, as well as cultural icons such as Oprah Winfrey. Liz Brunner, welcome to the show.
Oh, Colleen, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And it's great to be here with you today. Thank you for having me on the show.
You know, I could have dove into this even more, Liz, and talked all about what you've done. I know you've got a beautiful inspirational book that I read not too long ago called Dare to Own You, taking your authenticity and dreams into your next chapter in her first book. So let me ask you this question. What is so important about authenticity? What did you learn in 28 years of doing what you were doing? I really doubt you maybe walked in 28 years on that very first day authentic to exactly who you were. Well, tell us the journey.
Well, I tried to be. Let's just put it that way. And I remember the best way to sort of demonstrate this is I remember one of the consultants coming in somewhere along the way. I think it was my third television station. And he was reviewing my anchor tapes and my reporting, stories. And he said to me, Liz, just be yourself. And I said, but I am. And I was being myself. It wasn't that I was being inauthentic or unauthentic, but he just wanted me to just be Liz.
Yeah. And
by the time I left the television industry after 28 years, I was Liz on the air. I truly was Liz on the air. And so authenticity is one of those things. It's a word that's bantered about, Colleen, a lot. We hear a lot about what does it mean to be authentic? And I think what it means is you're really being true to your values. You're able and willing to be vulnerable and share who you are with people who have earned the right to hear your stories, learn about you, but it also takes acceptance of who we are, permission to give ourselves the opportunity to be authentic. It's not always easy to be authentic, but I think when we are, we truly are living our best life, and we can make all of our dreams come true. We can create next chapters for ourselves. It really is the key, I think, to being a happy person and living a happy, best life.
It really is. You know, there was a conversation the other day that I saw between Gary Vee and a school teacher, I think it was. And he said, you know, I just want to be a school teacher. It's what lights me up. And Gary said, you know, I really think now today, we need to start shifting the conversation from money to happiness. So many people want to flex that they have the money and buy the next best thing. But what you're talking about is authenticity, is really doing what lights us up, to daring, like you said, to own who we are and not worrying about what other people think, and giving ourselves that permission, just like he was giving that advice to that individual teacher and said, if you want to be a school teacher, go be a school teacher. It doesn't matter what it pays, how much money you make. What matters is you're making the impacts in the areas of people's lives that you want to make an impact. And I think that was a very powerful message, just as powerful as what you have said. So because you're an executive communications coach, and I know that had to have come out of, I've read the book, so I know, came out of your years of communicating to millions and millions of people through a lens that you looked into and talked into on a regular basis. What was that like from the early stages, and how had you grown in your communication throughout those years? And what could we tell our listeners and right now about how we can take our communication and make it even better, make it our own?
Let's go back even a little further, which is that I was a high school music teacher. I'm a classically trained singer, sang semi-professionally. So I was already communicating, if you will, as a teacher. I'm now communicating as a coach, but think about that. I was a communications person even back then when I was teaching high school students and when I was singing. And then when I decided to leave the teaching profession, not knowing what I wanted to do, where I was going to go, I just knew organically there was something more I was supposed to do in the world. And I then figured out, another Reader's Digest, read the book, it'll tell you everything, all the pieces I'm skipping out of right now. But then I figured out how to get into television. And of course, again, it was communicating through the spoken word now, whereas before it was communicating through singing and through notes and through music. And now what I'm doing after 28 years of that industry, and now having my own communications business and coaching people on how to tell their stories, how to put their stories together, there is a theme and pattern that runs through our lives. At least it runs through my life, and I believe it runs through everybody's life. So when we're talking about communicating, what is the story? We all have a story to tell. We all have a story to tell. When I work with people, I always say there are Liz's 4 C's. Number 1 is confidence in yourself and in your content, which is content is number 2. Number 3 is clarity of your content. Can everyone understand everything that you're saying? Are you boiling it down to a succinct story that connects emotionally with people? And then are you delivering it in a conversational way? That is what communication is about. It is connecting. It is engaging. It is sharing. That's the essence of communication.
That was beautifully said. So true. And I love that confidence is number 1, because you could deliver on all 3 other points, but without the confidence, they're lost. The other 3 are lost. When you say that's the engaging number 1 point is, how you present yourself and the confidence that you carry in your voice and in your expressions, in the
body language,
body language. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And Liz is right. And we're going to promote this throughout the entire podcast. I'm going to tell you all right now, go buy the book. It's called Dare to Own You. Right. Taking authenticity and dreams into your next chapter.
This is what it looks like.
There you go. Liz Brunner. It's blue and white. Dare to Own You. I have all the information out there for all of you. If you're watching live on Facebook right now, it's already in the description. Just click on, lizbrunner.com. I'm sure you can go to her website and buy it. If you're an Amazon junkie and you want to go there, I'm sure you can buy it there and have it delivered to your house by 3:00 this afternoon, by the way. So, don't wait another day. You got to get this book. Ladies, when I refer or recommend a book, you got to go grab it right away because this is a life changer. And, I'm so glad, Liz. I first want to thank you for writing this book because you were very vulnerable in this book about what you had gone through and some adversities, and you've had to take the leap a few times in your career. Do you want to mention a couple of those, or maybe one or two of those that stand out where you felt like this is a risk for me and I'm taking a big leap here? And when we take leaps, we don't know how it's going to turn out all the time.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
You're 100% right, Colleen. Well, probably the biggest leap professionally was when I made the decision that I was going to leave being a high school music teacher, not knowing what I was going to do next. I really had to firmly believe in myself and trust that I was going to figure it out, even though I had no clue. I started doing, home assessment tests. I'd go to the library and I'd send away. This is before the internet where you could do all this stuff online. And then I thought maybe I'd be a psychologist. Maybe I would be an interior decorator. Maybe I'd be an architect. But then I thought, I wonder if I could do something in television. I had done one television commercial when I was Miss Illinois in the Miss America Scholarship Pageant. And that paid for all of my education, by the way.
So great.
And I thought, okay, and I bravely, and people have to be brave. Women have to be brave. I bravely called up 2 television stations in the city that I was living in. I went on an informational interview. Did I have to go back to college and get another degree? Is what I thought I wanted to do even possible? Did it even exist? And in my case, it didn't exist. And one of the television stations created a position for me. And I learned everything on the job, Colleen. Everything they asked me to do, I said yes to. I had no clue how to do it, but I said, yeah, sure, no problem. And I'd go home and go, what the heck am I saying yes to? Including having my own television show and doing the weather. I'd never done the weather. I started taking some courses at the U of I. I'd watch the Weather Channel before I went in. But I figured, you know what? You've got to say yes. And my mantra has always been, just because you've never done something doesn't mean you can't. You just have to try. Are you going to be 100% successful and an expert at everything you try? No, but that's not the goal. The goal is to figure out, okay, I am good at this. Maybe I'm not so good at this, but you know what? I can do this. Yeah. One thing led to another. And every opportunity that came my way, I was there for 3 years. Then my second station, I was there for 5 years and I became a news anchor. Then I came to Boston and I was at that station for 20 years. So collectively, 28 years. And then, of course, I had this organic feeling again. I think there's something else I'm supposed to do with my life. And I took a leap. I felt like I was jumping off of a cliff, Colleen, when I made the decision that I'm like, okay, I'm going to start my own business. I never, ever wanted to have my own business. I never thought I was smart enough to have my own business. I thought, who's going to want to hire me? But I made that leap, hoping that there'd be a parachute. At least when I went skydiving, there was a parachute. Right. But you know what happened was one of my mentors said to me, I had narrowed it down to 3 lanes that I thought I could possibly do. I could be some communications expert for some company. I had no idea who. I thought maybe I could get more involved in nonprofit work, be an executive director somewhere, even though I'd never done that before. Or I could start my business and I could teach people. I could go back to my teaching days. I could be a coach now and teach people on presence, on public speaking, on presentation skills, on leadership. And oh, yes, let's not forget media as well, media training. Mm-hmm. This is what he said to me. Liz, you're well known, you're well respected, you have credibility. That is value. Why would you give that value to somebody else? Launch your business. Even if it's 6 months, 9 months, you don't like it, you don't have any clients, you can always go do something else. That is when the kaleidoscope went click. And I made the decision that day, I'm going to do this. And I, 6 weeks later, did it.
Good for you. Congratulations. That's awesome, Liz. We've talked about this on the podcast before, which is start before you're ready. I don't know. I have children. So any of the moms out there that have children know if we waited to be 100% prepared to be a mother, we never would have had our first child. And I wouldn't have all the grandkids I had today. My family wouldn't be what it was if I waited until I was ready. And that, I would have missed out on all of those beautiful years with my children. So when you talk about taking the leap and waiting to start before you're ready. When I started a community, I'd never ran a community before. And I just jumped in with both feet, like, this is what I want it to be. And this is what I'm going to do. And I didn't know how to build it. I didn't know what to do. Just like you said, I didn't know if it wasn't going to work in 6 months or 9 months, I could always go do something else. And that's the thing. We can change our minds and we can always go do something else. But to live your life and say, but I never took the leap to even try to start my own business. What would life have been like if I did? At least you knew now, right? By running your own business, what it would have been like. But what do we miss out on because we're afraid to take the leap and not take the risk and start before we're ready? Research has showed, Liz, I'm sure you've seen this. Women will not even apply for a position unless they feel like they're 85% qualified.
If not more.
Sometimes if not more. Higher, that's right. And then they'll never ask for a raise. They're just happy that they get the money if they get the job. Men will be 15% qualified and apply for the position and ask for a raise on top of that. And I admire that so much. And that was one thing that I learned from many of my male CEO mentors throughout my time in corporate America was that trait right there, to not be afraid, to step into it, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, but trusting that just like you did. I don't know how to do weather. I had no idea how to run a live radio show when I started. I had no idea how to run a podcast. I listened to them night after night after night. I wrote down my bullet points. I just got prepared the best I could. And then once I got going, I was like, this is easy. This is great. I can totally do this.
I can do this.
Yeah, I can do this. Yeah.
There are two things that I think are really important here. Number one, when I was making the decision, like, oh my God, can I start my own business? Do I really want to do this? I don't know how to do this. If fear was the only thing standing in my way, to me, that was not a good enough reason. That was not a good enough reason. That's number one. Number two, it's a Robert Schuller quote, which I absolutely love. What would you attempt to do if you knew you would not fail? What would any of us attempt to do if we knew this was going to be a success? This is not going to fail. What would any of us do? But then I'm going to add a third thing. Let's just flip that around. What is failure? Failure is only a failure if we don't learn the lesson, if we don't learn from whatever happened. It's not failure. It's just an opportunity to learn and grow. Is everything going to work out the way we think or we want or we hope? No, but that's not necessarily failure.
Mm-hmm. So true. Lessons to live by right there. So true. And someone asked me that on a podcast interview, actually, Liz. They said, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And I had never thought about that before because in my mind, failure looked different to me because I failed a lot. And so I failed getting my black belt and some of the tests I didn't pass and I had to redo them. And it took me, 3 years to get a black belt but I got it. So I failed along the way, but in the end, I achieved what I set out to do. So to me, I didn't fail, right? So they asked me that question and I thought, well, I do whatever I want to do and I just do things to do them because I don't feel like I can fail because failure just becomes a lesson along the way of something that I was on the wrong path. I needed to shift and do something a little bit different. So again, I do believe it's our mindset as well. And how we portray failure. It's false evidence appearing real. It's stories that we tell ourselves, right?
All those limiting beliefs we have in our heads.
We're not born with it. So we're born with two things, the fear of falling and the fear of the sound, right? It's the falling and the loud noises. That's it. I don't know if you've heard that. So we're not born with just fear of starting a business, all these other fears that are made up that come along based on our experiences, what we experience in our environments and society and in culture. And so I love that you said that. And my prayer is for the women and the gentlemen that are listening today, that they do dare to own them, and that they go out and they, take that leap to start a business or apply for that position or increase their career or advance their career or go for something that you never thought was possible just to do it. I remember I was 48 hours notice. I had been a marathon runner for many, many years. And I hadn't ran in at least 6 years. I had moved on to doing taekwondo and boot camps and some other things. And my brother-in-law was running a half marathon. And I said, I'll do it with you. And he was like, what? And he goes, I said, I can do it. I've done it before. And he goes, it's a half marathon. I said, that's okay. I'll figure it out. I knew that this journey was about the journey. This was not about, getting to the finish line and not stopping and getting in under 2 hours, and all the things that you have in your head when you're training for something. This was a last minute, I'm just going to go enjoy the journey and do this to support him. And I just remember how wonderful the journey was and how beautiful it was to be on a journey because I said yes to something that I didn't know if I was going to be able to complete, but I knew my body had it in me and I've done it before, that I was just going to do it. We'll just see what happens. And I barely made it over the finish line, couldn't walk to my car. Someone had to take me in a golf cart to my car. That was the first time that's ever happened. But I did it and I enjoyed the journey. And it took us like 3.5 hours to complete, the half marathon. I didn't even care. It was so much fun.
There are two things that really are kind of the essence of what you're talking about, which I think is so important. One, you just gave yourself permission to say, I'm going to go for this. Number two, anytime we're going to reach any kind of goal, we have to make 100% commitment that we're going to reach that goal. Even if it takes us 3 years, as you said about your taekwondo and your black belt, you made the commitment, I'm going to do this. And when people are looking at changing careers or creating next chapters, just take it one step at a time. Make the commitment to do one thing every day that's going to move you forward to take that leap, whatever that leap may be for you.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful, Liz. Thank you for clarifying that. That's absolutely true. And I know that, your vision and mission really in your life is to teach, again, going back to your teaching roots, motivating and inspiring others to live their best life. What does that mean to you, to motivate and inspire others, teaching them to live their best life?
Well, I think my goal, as you said, is really teaching, motivating, and inspiring people to live their best life, whatever that means for them.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a different definition of what their best life looks like and feels like and how they want to achieve it. So it's not like, oh, this is the right path you have to take, or this is the wrong path you have to take.
Right.
No, it's whatever that means for you. And one of the things that was very important to me in the book, and you'll remember this from reading it, and thank you for reading it, at the end of each chapter is a little section called Time to Reflect. And if people really take the time to be honest with themselves and answer those questions, I believe that they will be taught some lessons and learn their own lessons of the lessons that I've learned overcoming many different obstacles. They, I hope, will be motivated and inspired to say, wow, if she can do it, so can I. And I was so honored to have Jack Canfield of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series do the foreword for the book. And one of the things that I loved about what he said was, this is not a book that you just read and you put on the shelf. It's a book that you can go back to and continue learning from. And even Forbes recommended it and reviewed it and recommended it. And they called it a teaching memoir. And I love that description, because that's what I hope it is for people, that they will learn lessons from their own experiences. They'll go back and review some of their own experiences, the good, the bad. The impetus for the book was based on a quote by my grandmother, which is, no knowledge is ever wasted. No knowledge is ever wasted. And what that means is no experience, good or bad, is ever wasted. No career step that you make is ever wasted. Everything, you can connect the dots in your life. And I'm hoping and praying that as people see what those themes and patterns are in their own lives, as they connect those dots, as they learn the lessons from their own experiences, that will lead them to be inspired to live their best life, their next chapters, whatever that means for them.
That's beautiful, Liz. Thank you for sharing that. So I know everyone listening right now is like, how do I get in contact with Liz Brunner? How do I reach out to her? I know you have an offer for, our listeners today, but what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, first and foremost is my website probably is the easiest. It's lizbrunner.com. And I know you have that in your show notes, but it's LIZBRUNNER.com. And you'll learn all about the coaching services that we offer at Brunner Communications. Also, I have BrunnerAcademy.com, which you can also get to from lizbrunner.com. But BrunnerAcademy.com is my online learning platform. And the offer that I want to share with all of your listeners is that if they are interested in any of the courses, online self-paced courses on BrunnerAcademy.com, whether they be my flagship course, How to Be a Rockstar Public Speaker, whether they're part of the DARE collection, which are 4 courses that align with my book, we have an offer that gives everybody 15% off on any course that you might want to take. And it's BIGGS15, BIGS 15.
Gotta love that, you guys.
Pretty easy to remember. But the other thing I want to share with people is that I have my own podcast, such as you do. Beautiful. And it's called Live Your Best Life with Liz Brunner. And I have wonderful guests who've really had transformations and next chapters in their lives. We're in 140 countries. We have like 35,000 downloads or something like that now. And I'm just so excited about it. So 4 different ways people can connect, including my book, Dare to Own You.
Yeah. So go download the podcast, Live Your Best Life with Liz Brunner. Go grab a copy of your book, Dare to Own You. Like I said, you can get that. Can they get that at lizbrunner.com?
They can. It's right there on the homepage. You can click to either Barnes & Noble, Amazon. I think there are other platforms there as well.
And I 100% recommend that you buy the book. So I love Audible, and Audible is great. But I have to tell you, the time to reflect was why this book meant so much to me. Because when I have books that give me something to do and reflect on, or pull my experiences into from a chapter to apply it, that's when I learn. That's when I grow. That's when I expand. And if learning is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. Everyone has heard me say it 1,000 times. So by learning and growing individually for ourselves, that allows us to make a greater impact on other people. We can inspire change in others. We can build unlimited success for ourselves and leave that legacy behind. And we can assist.
We are all teachers and students at the same time. And, if we're not learning and growing, and if we're not stretching ourselves, then what are we doing? And if we're not being of service in some way, and that's why this book is so important to me. It's like, I just feel like if this helps one person, 2 people, whomever, in any way, shape, or form, then I've accomplished what I set out to do. And I just want people to know, if I can do it, you can too. Yeah. If I can make these next chapters happen, so can you.
And just remember, ladies and gentlemen, that's BrunnerAcademy.com. The code you want to use is BIGS15. I have all of that in the notes. And for those of you listening on the podcast, because you download our podcast on a weekly basis, that's great. If you want to go see Liz in video, head on over to Colleen Biggs on Facebook. All you have to do is find me. I'm Colleen Biggs on Facebook. You can go see Liz and see our live video that we did. You can also catch me at Colleen Biggs on YouTube. You can go check out our video there as well. If you want to see what Liz looks like, she's phenomenal. I've been waiting for this day to be able to interview her because I enjoyed her book so much. And I know what her mission is set out to do. And this is about you. This life is about you. It's not about anyone else. You're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that will ever be. How you dare to own you in your future is up to you. You must give yourself permission to do that, or you're going to miss out on life. So start before you're ready. Take the leap, because that's when you're going to be able to reach the impossible of things that you just didn't think you were ever going to achieve. So Liz, it's been a pleasure having you on our show today. Any last words you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I talked a little bit a while ago about, having started my business, and I was so afraid to do so. And I was not going to let fear stand in my way. Well, guess what? This October, it's 9 years old. And if you had said to me 10 years ago, Liz, you're going to have a communications company that's successful. You're going to have a podcast that's successful. You're going to have an online platform, and you're going to have a book. I would have said, what? If I can do it, so can you. You may not have those same goals, but don't let fear stand in your way. Give yourself permission.
I love that. Don't let fear stand in your way. Give yourself permission. Thank you so much, Liz. And everyone, thank you for being with us today. And until next time, be you and be strong. Until then, bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.